Welcome back to Make Pods Great Again. I'm your host, John, back with my girl, Nikki. Nikki, how are you?
I am so good. How are you?
I'm a little depressed.
What? Why?
Eddie Van Halen died today.
Oh my God. I didn't hear yet.
Yes. Sorry, I just ripped
Oh
the
my
Band-Aid off of that. And as a
God. You
guitar player, like
did.
he was I don't want to say he was like the main, like he's certainly not my main influence as a musician, but certainly is someone that I adored as a guitar player and like listen to weekly, easily.
Hmm.
Like all the
He's a
like
legend.
matter of fact, I've been on a Van Halen kick, like a hard kick for the last month.
Hmm.
So I'd just like to say out loud, 2020 can go fuck itself
I
because this is
know.
like the last straw for
Jesus.
me, man. Like the last straw. For anyone that, if you haven't listened to Eddie Van Halen in a while, I'm gonna tell you right now, Unchained. That's the song you need to go back and listen to if you want to hear what a genius this guy was. Like, oh, I was listening to it this morning actually, and just everything
Oh.
about it's just like rock perfection. It really is like just completely and utterly. And the guy was just a straight up genius. So a little depressing for the day, but I know
Oh,
it's
I'm
not CrossFit
sorry.
news, but
No, I think that's important. I don't like really fall hard into like celebrity and pop culture and stuff, but every so often there will be, especially in music, like an artist or two that really, really hits me. It's funny. It's so weird that we're talking about this now because I was driving home from the gym today listening to Elton John, and I just thought to myself, won't it be such a tragedy when we lose him? It was the most random thought that I had. And I don't even know
that's
why I went
true.
there. Probably because 2020 fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But I just thought to myself, like, wow, won't it be such a, because I've been listening to all of his music ever since I was a kid with my parents and have continued on my own. And yeah, sometimes they're just people that really touch you. So I'm sorry.
I love that
That's
song, Hold
tough.
Me Closer, Tony Danza. That song's awesome.
Yeah. And, him and Tony had a really
I
special
know.
relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was like, when it comes to Eddie Van Halen, there are very few guitar players. Like I heard somebody earlier today, so it was like the Mount Rushmore of guitar players, and there's like Jimi Hendrix and
Hmm.
Eddie Van Halen, and then there's a
Mm.
couple of other guys that like kind of rotate in and out of there. But when you think of
Yeah.
somebody
Like
like,
who? Like who?
I don't know, like, well, first I just think of Eddie of like how influential he was. You would not have had the '80s without him. Like
Right.
he
Totally.
he basically created hair bands, like for whatever it's worth, or he super influenced them. Like you can hear his influence among so many people.
Totally.
Stevie Ray Vaughan is way up on that
Yeah.
list. I mean, he's obviously passed away too. I remember where I was when he passed away because I was a guitar major in college at the time, and I was in the music hall, and his helicopter had crashed. And I walked in, and like all the guitar players are like, I shouldn't laugh, but they're all like sitting in the hallway, like sitting, and
Oh,
like half of them are crying. And I'm like, what the
yep.
hell happened? Like,
What's going on?
and they're like, oh, Stevie Ray Vaughan died. And at the time, I wasn't a huge fan, so I was like, oh,
Yeah, yeah.
But looking back on it, I can see why it was such a huge
Of
loss for
course.
people.
What about
Clapton,
like Steve
yeah,
Vai?
yeah, Steve Vai's on that list. Although
Yeah,
you could argue he was influenced, pretty decent deal by Eddie,
totally.
but I look at Clapton as and obviously still
Okay.
alive, as someone
Yeah.
who is there. Jimmy Page, like there's so
Mm.
many that have influenced so many after them. And Eddie was just so unique. And what I loved about him, because I can really relate to this, is he didn't know shit about music theory. Even though I studied music theory, it was never interesting to me. He was just one of those guys that just like loved music, could just hear something and create. He's just a
Mm.
real amazing creator that way. And see, that's a bummer. Cancer
I
sucks.
I definitely think that, and I'm gonna sound really fucking old, but I definitely think that like that creator, that like I don't even know, it's lost today is what I'm trying to get to. Like, we're in this stage of music where we're relying so much on technology, and that like innate creator within someone, I feel like, is kind of lost. It's sad. It's like, I
Music's
hate to be like
interesting.
everything is out-of-tuned, kids these days, blah 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 blah, but it's true. It's really hard. I think you find it sometimes in like deep hip hop, like the lyrics that
Hmm.
people can come up with are really, really meaningful, but we've lost it a lot in pop culture, and rock was really like paved the way for pop culture because it was that thing that was
Right.
kind of like mainstream or getting there, and it was pushing the boundaries, and that's what we needed in pop culture. So
Well,
just
what's interesting to me about music right now is that when you look at like that era of Van Halen and all the bands that came after, they were all bands and they relied on labels to get their music out. You didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
internet, you didn't have YouTube,
Right.
none of that,
Yeah.
you know. And so you got all these great albums. And that for me, that's the creative side. You look at, you know, we'll just stick to Van Halen. You look at Van Halen 1, Women and Children First, 1984,
Mm-hmm.
5150. Like those are kind of their, you know, quintessential albums. And how creative you have to be to put together an entire album. Now it's like, you know, so and so featuring so and it's a single, and they're all singles. And there's
Yeah.
songs, those songs are great. You know, like there are very few artists that are still doing creative albums. And this is a horrible analogy, but my daughter listens to her. You know, Taylor Swift still does that, creates
Mhm.
albums,
Totally.
tell a story. And I love Taylor Swift, and you guys make fun all you want, but I think she's great. She's a great songwriter, and
She is.
she
Yes.
creates, and she creates
Totally.
albums, and they tell stories. And I think that's what music used to do, and now it isn't doing that quite as much. And maybe why people don't connect with individual artists like they used to. You know,
Mm-hmm. This is why I wish that Adele would make more music. Like,
she's busy getting skinny
and having babies
and
and
putting her hair and you know, stealing people's culture and all the crazy stuff she's
oh
doing right
my
now.
God, I can't. I
Hey,
love
I love
her.
her. I love her too. She's great. I got no complaints on Adele, but you know, she's been blown up on social media lately. It's just
I
funny.
guess.
It's just so funny.
I just
So
think that she's one of the great voices of our current time. And like, you know, say what you want about pop music, like not everyone is as skilled of a vocalist these days. And you can get away with a lot more thanks to technology. And songwriting is very important, but I just think that she's got both.
well,
She's got the pipes.
as long as we're sticking to that, I'll tell you who else is incredibly talented is Lady Gaga.
Oh my God.
So here's a
Yes.
fun story. I had a God, how long ago was this? This would have been several years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. And I dated this girl for like a really short period, like all girls I've dated probably. And so I dated this girl for a short period. And one of our first dates, she had tickets to Lady Gaga. And she's like, "Do you want to go?" I'm like, "No, but I will because I'm a
What?
nice dude." I didn't listen to her, you know, and like, so I'm like, "I'll go." Well, we had
Mm-hmm.
seats on the floor, and she had two
Holy shit.
stages, one up front where she did her kind of upbeat dance stuff and all her dancers were. And then she had the second stage that had just a piano on it. And that's where we were. And we
Ooh.
were literally like me to this computer from it, like, you know, 15 feet, like we were right there. And, you know, as a songwriter and as a musician, I was floored at how talented
Uh-huh.
she is. Like, not only her singing is on point, which everybody already knew, but amazing piano player. She's actually a
Uh-huh.
very good guitar player. And her songs are just so well written from
Oh
end
my
to
God.
end. Like
Oh my
everything
God.
she played, like one song after the other, I'm just sitting there just like kind of breaking it down in my mind thinking, man, like, this woman can really write songs, you know?
She's unbelievable. So, okay, funny story. Back when I was in college and I was bartending, I worked at the sports bar in Boston and I was like, you know, I was in my like little like Daisy Dukes and I had like my Red Sox t-shirt that was like cut open and whatever. Like that's how it was back then.
Right.
And I had a couple patrons at the bar that were like, "Hey, we've got extra tickets to the show tonight if you want them." And it was at the House of Blues in Boston. This is like a million years ago. And I ended up working my shift, picked up a girlfriend, and we went because we had two tickets. And it was Lady Gaga and Kelly Clarkson unplugged. Unbelievable. And it was kind of like before they were really huge. Like Kelly Clarkson
Right.
was like the bigger act because it was post American Idol. And then Lady Gaga was still like very new and up and coming. And the whole show was her wearing a dress made entirely of balloons. Adorable, very
Nice.
old school Lady Gaga, and her and a piano, her and her balloons and a piano. And it was the first time that I ever had, this was probably like 20, 2009, maybe 2010. I'm old.
I don't
But
know.
there you
You're
go.
all right. First of all, you got to quit
I
saying that.
feel old when I say
Oh
that
my
out loud,
God.
like 2009, no one knew who Lady Gaga was. But like from the very beginning, I was like, holy shit, this woman is amazing. And now, like the albums she's done that are, you know, obviously like pop music is just catchy and whatever, but there are
Yeah.
so many like deep, meaningful songs and albums. And she even has like, does she have like a CD with Tony Bennett where they do
Yeah.
like
Well, her last
Hurtful
album,
and Christmas music? It's like everything. She does everything. We listen to her constantly. Matt loves her.
That
He's gonna kill
album,
me for saying that out
the
loud.
album she wrote, I think it was called Joanne. I think
Yeah, so
it was like
good.
that was the tour that I saw her on, and that album's about
Mm,
her life. Like it's really
hmm
personal if you really listen to it. I think people don't maybe give her the chance. What's favorite concert you've ever been to?
I haven't seen a ton of really great artists live because I still think the best concert I've ever been to was NSYNC when I was like 14 years old.
Hey, that's a
Because
good concert,
it was a great concert and it was like a momentous occasion for me. It was like my first big live concert
right?
at a huge stadium and like my big brother took me and it was like very cool.
Nice.
Um, no, I haven't seen like a ton. You know what? This is true 100% and I'll stand behind this. Justin Timberlake's Man of the Woods tour I saw last year and it was unfriggin'
Well,
believable.
he's one of the most talented people
Oh,
on the planet. Like just across all lines, he's funny, he's charming, he's an amazing singer songwriter, like dancer.
and
Like he can really do it all.
he sang like every song he's ever written. Like you got your money's worth. That was what was incredible to me was it wasn't just like, hey, I have a new album and I'm going to tour with it and you're going to get like an hour and a half long show
Right?
while I get through all my new songs. It was like every song he's ever written. Dude played for like 3.5, 4 hours. It
Yeah,
was
that's great.
insane. And you know who else did that? Was Elton John, who I saw my senior year of college with my mom. And he was old back then.
Right?
And he played for like
Yeah,
4.5 hours. I was like, what? Like our
I
tickets were,
know.
I don't know, like $70, $150, whatever. It was like, we got our fucking money's worth. Oh my
That's
God. I was
amazing.
tired by the end. How about you? You've probably seen
Amazing.
a ton of shows.
Um. Oh well, let's see. I got a bunch. So I did see Van Halen. They're not my favorite concert,
Hmm.
but I saw them and they were great. Alice in Chains opened.
Oh my God.
They were terrible. They
Unbelievable.
were
Oh,
terrible. Alice,
really? Come
yes,
on.
they were terrible. It was their first. It was like their first tour. You
Oh,
know, they're
that's
the
so
opening
funny.
act. They just sounded muddy. It was right before grunge hit, like right before, and so they
Oh,
just sounded
grunge was their
muddy.
sweet spot.
Yeah, they just sounded like muddy and gross. Like it just didn't sound good. But I love Alice in Chains. Don't get me wrong. My all-time favorite concert was Jeff Buckley. I saw
Hmm.
him in Cincinnati in this tiny little club. He was opening for somebody. Um, it was about a year and a half before he died, and hearing him play Hallelujah live was like imagining like the holy host of angels coming down and singing. That's what it sounded like. Like I heard
Hmm.
it, and as a musician, I thought I'm never going to hear anyone better than this. That's how good it was.
Wow.
Like it
Holy
was, and
moly.
I still haven't. I honestly haven't. Like it was literally like life changing. Foo Fighters, I saw them here in Cleveland
So good.
at the Q, or at the time it was called Gund Arena, and same thing. Like Dave Grohl played. They played for like 3.5 hours. They just went
Forever.
forever, and he just talks a ton. It went on so long, it got old, but it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I saw Pearl Jam at that same place. Had really good seats
Oh,
for
that's
Pearl
awesome.
Jam. They were fantastic. Probably my most fun concert was Taylor Swift.
Ah,
But I took my daughters. They were little, so they were like 7 and 9 or something.
oh, how
And
fun.
yeah, and it was the tour. It was I forget what it was called. It was the one before Red, and Hunter Hayes was opening. Anyway, Taylor Swift came out, and both my girls were like, you ever see those like, um, the video clips of people seeing the Beatles and they're
And then
crying? Yes,
crying.
that's what
Yes.
it was like. As
Oh
soon as she
my
came out,
God.
they lost their shit, just lost it. Like they're like crying and screaming, and that's what made it
God.
fun.
Yeah,
And
totally.
her music's fun,
Totally.
like
It's so fun. Yeah.
yeah. So it was that was a really interesting concert, interesting experience. But yeah, there's something about music that's a lot like CrossFit. Like it really like brings people together. Like
Yeah.
and right now I think that's important, particularly like in kind of a bitter election, and people are like, I feel like every time I log on, people are fighting over the dumbest shit,
Oh my
and
God.
so
I
I'm loving music for that aspect, is that you can just bond with people that you hate over bands that you love,
totally.
which,
Totally.
which is great,
Yeah. I
So,
love that we're talking about this. I don't know if you've made it this far into the episode, you're probably realizing that this is kind of just like an us episode.
yeah.
We're just
They're
like
like,
chatting about whatever. And
where's the guest? Where's the CrossFit talk?
I know, I know.
But,
Every so often, I think it's good to just like
mhm.
hang and chat. Though we did get a bunch of really great questions from our Patreon folks, so it gave us some sort of like direction on some things that I think we can chat about and topics that we can cover that are like CrossFit adjacent, but also just like about us. And I think music, leading into this episode, talking about music is very you. So I love to get your perspective on that kind of thing for
Yeah,
sure.
music's super important to me. I mean, it's, I spend a ton of time listening every day. I mean, probably my all-time favorite art. Actually, I should add in those concerts. I saw John Mayer on his first tour when he was
You
19.
did.
Yeah, he was
Whoa.
supporting his first album, and there was no opening act. It was just him. And I remember him coming out, and this was before anybody knew he was a great guitar player. I didn't know. At the time, like, we didn't have the internet, so everything was CDs and cassettes.
You remember that?
Yes, and
Do you remember like taping songs off the
yeah.
radio?
Oh,
Kids will never know the struggle.
I know.
They won't.
I remember giving my computer all kind of viruses trying to steal music online from Napster.
Oh yeah, right. That was from stealing music,
But so we go down to Tower City, and God, I was in my early 20s at this point. I was probably like, I'm guessing I'm 26, because I was dating my now ex-wife, right?
Oh, wow.
The mother of my children. So yeah, I would have been 25 or 26 probably. So I just remember him coming out, and he had this small little band, and it was a tiny venue. It sits on the river, the one that caught on fire here in Cleveland.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. And anyway, there's probably 1,000 people there, maybe. And they're all 16-year-old girls losing their shit over this young, cute 19-year-old boy,
Yeah.
And he comes out and he plays, kind of all the hits off that first album. And then he sits down on the edge of the stage and he starts playing blues. And I'm like, oh, crap.
Who's this guy?
This kid is going to be a monster. And he turned out to be, like he figured out by like his second or third album, he's like, I don't want to just be a pop star. I want to be a musician. And he is, and so that, like, looking back, I would always encourage people. And I try to tell my girls, like, go see live music when it comes back.
Yeah.
You never know, who you're going to run into, who are the people that you hear that are someday going to be, the next big thing. And John Mayer turned out to be that. And I still, I had him in the car today listening to all of his hits,
Yeah. I think live music helps you determine what you like, because it's so different. It sounds so different coming out of those people and being in that experience than it does on the radio. So, like, I'm not a big country music fan, and I can feel the hate coming at me already. I don't like country music, but I really like country bands. Like, I like their harmonies and I like the way they sound. And oh my God, what's the country music band with it's the guy and the girl? They're both lead singers.
Well, there's a couple of those, but that could be
Lady Antebellum. Got it.
There you go.
That was what it was. Yeah. So my husband loves country music, and he's from the country, so it makes total sense. He took me to see them. This was years ago, and it was one of my first like live experiences, and I loved it. And I was like, oh damn, I guess I don't hate country music. Like, there are sections of this that I really, really like, but it took a live concert to get me there. And now there are bands I really, really love. I've always loved the Rascal Flatts, but I guess country music fans will say that's not real country. It's like very pop. I get that.
It's like 80s pop is what it feels like, but it's still country,
Sure. But like, because of that, I ventured into like, I like Little Big Town, and I really do like Lady Antebellum. And side note, the outdoor venue we were at when we saw them, it started to rain, and they pulled all their equipment back, but they left their piano out in the rain, and they sang this last song where it was just the guy on the piano and the girl sitting on it getting like poured on, and it was backlit. Nice. And it was like the most beautiful romantic thing. It was the coolest moment in a concert I've ever been at. It was really, really cool.
I like country music. Okay. It's a total non-starter for workouts, though. Do not put on country music when I'm trying to work out. Like,
thank you.
Spencer tries to do that shit all the time. I'm like, bro, like, you can't lift a 3/4. Here's the rule. Like, as a musician, here's the rule, right? So most rock songs are in 4/4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right? So country songs are in like almost always in a swing. So they're 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can't lift to this. You cannot lift to this.
Coaches, take note.
Yes, it's horrible. There's so many things you can't do to that, So yeah, no country music in a workout. It's just it's a bad thing. So
it's bullshit. I agree, 100%.
Yeah, total bullshit. Anyway, all right. Enough on the music talk. So what do the patrons want to hear tonight?
So the first question we got that I thought was really fun, and we could spend as much or as little time on this. If we wanted to spend 2 hours talking about this, we could. But I think everyone knows that we're both like gear junkies.
So much
Everyone
gear.
knows so much gear and new gear, old gear. Like there's brands that we love. There's gear that we love for working out. And so a couple patrons actually said that this was more than one.
Patrons.
Patrons on the Patreon.
Patreonies.
Patreonies. A
Yes.
couple of the Patreonies had different questions about gear. So basically just people wanted us to talk about the gear that we love or the brands that we love and kind of where we're at with that right now. I know shoes. Yeah, I was just going to say, I
That's
know
all the
you're a
gear.
shoe king.
I have some shoes here. Here, I'm going to show you some shoes.
Let me see what you got.
Here, this one's my favorite for those that watch this on video. This is the Under Armour Tri-Base Rain 2 in black, not that ugly ass.
No, I love electric
highlighter salmon, but the insides are still that color for whatever that's worth.
I love it.
And
for what it's worth, those are also my favorite CrossFit shoe.
I wear these for everything. Like, and this
I
is not, first of all, every shoe I have here with me, with the exception of one, was free. So I'm going to give that disclaimer, mostly because I like to flex on everyone else. But with that said,
he does. Every time he gets new shoes in the mail, he'll text me a picture and be like, I didn't see you getting these new Metcons. I didn't see anyone sending you these.
But because of that, I can say these are legit my favorite because they're all free. So it's
right.
I don't, I'm not like beholden to Under Armour. They're not paying me to say this, but
totally.
The Tri-Base Rains are really good, man.
They're my favorite.
They're super comfortable. I don't wear them for every workout, but I do think they're my best all-purpose shoe. They're great for rope climbs, box jumps. They're the best running shoe of the group that I have when I'm not wearing a running shoe.
The best. That's my favorite part of them. So I can't run in ever since I trained for the marathon in 2017, I don't know if I overtrained or what, but like I can't run more than 800 meters without feeling some sort of like stress fracture type pain.
Yeah.
I can't. So if we ever have a workout that has more than like an 800 in it, one time, I'm wearing running shoes. And recently I got the Noble runners. And so I can like dabble with those, but I have run workouts with up to 2 miles in them in those Tri-Base Rain 2s. And had zero problems. Yeah. So like, that's the best. If it's like squatting and running and it's 2 miles or less, those are the shoes I go to 100%.
Yeah. If the workout has more than 2 movements and, or has running in it, those are the ones I'm wearing almost always. You can almost guarantee it. They kind of check every box for me. They're not too tight in the middle. I have a big enough toe box that my toes feel good. There's enough padding in the forefront that if I'm doing double unders, I don't feel like I'm just pounding my toes into the rubber floor mats. And then there's a little bit of a lift in the heel. So they're good for squats. Like I squatted today and I wore them for that. I didn't wear lifters. I just wore those,
They're just secure enough for squats for me. Like I do like those Noble runners for when I do, like if it was like running in box jumps or something like that, like I wouldn't think twice. But if it were running in overhead squats, which was a workout I just had this past week, I don't want to wear the runners for that. They're just too soft.
So here's my favorite style shoe.
Ooh, let me see.
The Noble with the gum bottom high tops. And I forget what they call this, but they got the little dots all over it for her pleasure.
Yeah. Ribbed for her pleasure.
Ribbed for her pleasure. For the record, these are the only shoes I paid for. Noble did not give these to me, and I'm still a little bitter. I'm not going to lie.
So I don't have any high tops and I want a pair, but I'm not allowed to purchase CrossFit gear. It is a rule in my house because so much of it, and I'm very lucky this is not a flex, I'm very grateful. A lot of it gets sent my way. So I'm 100% not allowed to purchase anything or my husband will have my head.
Well, it's the benefit. That's why I encourage divorce amongst all my friends. But but I will say,
I'll use that.
Yeah. I will say I paid for these, but I haven't regretted it. They've been surprisingly as high tops, like really comfortable for like burpees and.
Oh wait, you work out in them?
All the time.
Get out.
They're my second favorite workout shoe. Yeah.
Do you have to wear a high sock with them?
Yeah, I wear like
ankle chafing.
I wear those Under Armour socks we got at the Under Armour Summit, like kind of those
the tall
mid-range.
ones.
Yeah. So I like those. I mean, they're super comfortable. My only complaint is with most high tops is they're a bitch to get off. Like you really have to work to take them off. Yeah. But otherwise, they're great for double unders, great for rope climbs, great for everything they're okay for sprinting if you really run. If you lollygag like I do, they're terrible. So like
Oh,
if you're sprinting, they're great because they have no support. So you're out on your toe or kind of out on the front of your foot. They feel fine. If once you start getting tired and you start heel striking, they're
heel striking.
horrible. They're so
Ooh.
bad. So bad.
Okay, okay. So
But
200s only.
yeah, but they look good, which
Yeah,
is it's part of the workout. You got to make sure you look good.
totally. Totally.
All right, OG shoe. This is my all-time favorite shoe.
You still have Innovates?
Yeah. So which ones are these? These are
The 295s, F-Light
are they
295s.
230s? These are the 230s.
Oh, 230s.
F-Light 230s in the Smurf blue, which you gotta
Mm-hmm.
have. Like this is the color to have too. This is my second pair. So I bought the first pair, and like most Innovates, the toe ripped off.
Yeah, of course.
And then these are horrible for rope climbs. Anybody that watches this on YouTube, you can see here where you rope climb, it just shreds the bottom. So I don't wear these for anything but workouts that require, like, they're great for handstand push-ups because they weigh like half an
0
ounce. Like they're
pounds. Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
light. They're terrible for rope climbs. They're kind of great for short distance running, again, because they're super light. They're like wearing socks. If you wear them in double unders though, and you whack yourself in the toes, it hurts like a bitch.
Hurts like hell.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're like made out of paper. Like they're so thin.
So Innovate, if you're new here, Innovate was the first shoe that was sort of known for CrossFit because they were flat enough but supportive enough but reactive, like springy enough for all the different types of cross training that we do. And there was never a CrossFit shoe until Reebok came in and began its partnership with CrossFit. So in the beginning, we were all kind of scrounging around for like, what is the brand we can fall in love with? What is the gear that we need that is CrossFit adjacent without saying the word CrossFit? And Innovate was it. Also, for the record, the Vibram 5-finger toes were like, they made an appearance for a minute. I know. Matt had a bunch of pairs, so that's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
That's dirt you can use on him later. But
Yes.
What I will say is Innovate has they disappeared for like a hot second, but they've been really, really back strongly lately because they have a bunch of strong CrossFit athletes on their roster nowadays. And they have Danny Spiegel on their roster.
Danny, I think they have
and
Scott
she
Panchak.
loves their shoes. I think they have Scott Panchak. Yeah, exactly. And a couple other very strong athletes in other fields outside of CrossFit too. So they've come back and their new shoes, I haven't tried them, but they look freaking awesome. And I think that they fixed a bunch of those like way back in the day issues. Like I'm pretty sure you can rope climb in them now.
Oh, you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can.
And I think the toe box is
230s.
way more secure and like you're not going to like give yourself a welt.
Yeah, well, their new stuff you can rope climb in, and like I've got other pairs of Innovates. Those happen to be my favorites, and I paid for those too. I just don't consider those like I paid for them because I bought them like 8 years ago. So they're so
the ROI
old.
is high. Yeah.
They're so old. So this is the standard right now. Actually, the 10s are the standard now, but the Reebok Nano 9s.
Okay,
but this is the color. You got to get it in the red, otherwise they're not worth having. Like you got to get the red and whatever kind of off blue gray color this is. I haven't liked any of the others, but this one I've loved. I don't know why.
Okay, let's talk about Nanos for a second.
Yes.
There are many iterations and I know you've had all of them.
I've had most of them. Some of them are crap. The 9s are good. I hear really good reviews on the 10s. I don't own a pair of 10s because they didn't send me some like they sent you some, so screw them. But the 10s look great. Visually, they're great. I've not worn them. The 9s are great. The 8s are crap.
No, the 8s are my favorite.
Or is it the 7s that are crap?
7s are crap.
7s are crap. Sorry, Reebok. I got the wrong crap.
No, you know what's funny is Reebok admitted that the 7s were crap because they admitted that they had to get to market faster than they wanted to because they had to keep up with the Metcon launch, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, arguably, I feel like they were like, sorry, guys.
I also have the original 2s, and those are pretty good because they're really close to like kind of Converse. You know, they have a big toe box, different than Converse, but they're super flat. Do you remember, did you ever get the pair that you had to put in the oven?
Yes, the U-forms.
Yes.
I did. So I didn't have U-form Nanos. I had U-form lifters.
I'm not putting.
And I baked them. I baked my shoes.
Everybody baked them. We were talking
weird.
I was talking to Saxon about this the other day. I'm like, do you ever have the ones you baked? He's like, oh yeah, we all baked our shoes. I'm like, man, we must have been baked.
Weird.
We all must have been
Yeah,
baked about those
yes,
shoes.
absolutely.
All right, last pair. So I've actually been wearing these lately, and I'm not a gigantic Nike fan, but they sent me these. Actually, Steph Hammerman sent these to me.
Yeah, stuff.
And these are logoed, say MWGA on the tongue, which are very special to me.
What?
Yes.
Relax.
And
OMJ.
yes, and they're, got the red heel and the gold around the
Mm-hmm.
back. Like, these are sweet. I have new respect for Metcons after wearing these. I've never been a huge Nike fan. They're like really
Mm-hmm.
tight on me, but I've
Yeah.
been doing workouts that have thrusters in them. And they're, man, when you're lifting, talk about a solid base.
Are
Man,
those the
like,
fives?
yeah, whatever the most recent line is. So
Oh, the
yes.
sixes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that's right. I think they're the sixes. I don't know. They're part of their custom shop, and they're great. So
Um, I
a
also
fan.
recently just got the sixes, and I had twos or threes before, and I was not a huge fan, which is funny because I actually love Nikes in general. I do have a really narrow foot though, so
Right.
they're like when nanos are too wide and the toe box is too roomy, I like have to tie them so tight that the top of the shoe like wrinkles. So typically Nikes are my jam, but I didn't love the early renditions. They were just so stiff that they were so stiff they were uncomfortable. They weren't like stiff and provided support or stiff and like, gave me a good solid heel for squatting or anything like that. So I was skeptical, but I ended up getting the sixes because they're so freaking cute. Have you seen the cheetah pattern with the pink?
Yes. Yes.
And I love them. And you're right, they're super secure for squatting, but I also can run in them. Not quite as well as the Under Armour Tri-Base Rain 2s, but like I do not have a problem running 400s in those Metcon 6s, and I did not think that would be the case just because everything from my past was like very stiff and not
Well,
runny with
I
it.
accidentally wore these in a running workout the other day, and like I instantly regretted it. It sounded
Yeah.
like a
Mm-hmm.
Clydesdale. It was like clop,
I
clop, clop, clop,
know.
clop, clop, clop.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so bad.
Matt had the fives and couldn't run in them, didn't like them at all. But the sixes are great. And the sixes come with a tiny little lift in them.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They sent
Yeah.
those.
They kind of like they remind me of Versalifts. They're not
Yep.
quite as thick, but it's like it's cool if you're like doing a whatever Metcon, you can just like slip them in there.
Well, I'm gonna say out
Balls,
loud,
thrusters.
no one has sponsored any of these shoes. If any of these companies would like to sponsor Nikki and I, we're happy
Yeah,
to entertain offers, even just for free shoes.
absolutely.
But nobody
We're
asked us to do
available.
this.
No, we should be charging spots for this, shouldn't we?
Oh
Damn
shit!
it.
Wow.
We're so bad at
I have
this.
so many pairs of shoes. It wouldn't be possible for me to ever talk about shoes because I own every pair known to man. These just happen to
Yeah.
be kind of my top five right now. There's so many
Hmm.
others, but outside of that, the only other gear I have that's like probably my top gear, and I feel really dumb for kind of saying it out loud. So I have one of those RX Evo speed ropes that are
Okay.
$125. They're
Why
like
do you
sold
feel dumb? That's
because it's
great.
$125 for a jump rope, for
Well,
God's sakes. It's like,
that's fine.
it's like, talk about a first world problem. Such a great rope. And actually they just came out with their version 2, which I do not own. So they're welcome to send me one if they want. But they sent one to Saxon, which is why I've seen it live in the person. And the handles are lighter, even lighter than the ones I have,
Ooh,
and they're like really cool. Yeah.
really?
So they're so fast and like easy to use. Like, I just love the thing, but they're super expensive. It's $125. And you sit there, I do the, outside I'm a banker, I do the math. I'm like, you know how much I'm paying per jump? Like, this is stupid. So dumb. Every wide costs me $50. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but if it's gear that works for you, then like that's the point of having a hobby like this. Like, we pour our hearts and souls into it because it makes us feel good. Like you're allowed to do things that make you feel good in relation to this hobby.
Yeah, the only thing I would tell people about the Evo speed rope is only get it if you're really good at dubs. Like,
Hmm.
and I don't mean that to brag. Like, I'm good at it's the one thing I can do. So I didn't feel bad about spending $125. If you're not really good at them, buy a cheaper rope and get good at them first. Like,
Yeah.
don't spend
Yeah.
that kind of money on a rope because even like Rogue makes good ones.
Yeah. Most gyms you can even buy one just off Amazon. Like you can
Yeah,
buy a decent like $15 speed rope off
right.
Amazon just to train your double unders. And then invest in a rope when you have a good rhythm and you know what you want. Because do you want light handles? Do you want a cable? Do you want, you don't know yet. And so probably don't want
Yeah.
to spend the money before you know.
That's probably my only other gear. I mean, I have a couple pair of lifters, and I've got some belts, and I've got a bag and wrist wraps, and I have everything. Okay, I have
I
everything.
have everything
I
too.
literally have everything,
Wait, can I
including the
tell
home
you a
gym.
can I tell you a belt story?
Yes.
So my belt is my baby, right? Like I want to wear that thing for pull-ups. Like I
Is
just
it the
feel
gold one? The
it's the gold
sparkly?
one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the gold sparkly, the gold sequin one from Tupood. And like
Yep.
it's just my security blanket. I know that that's like not good and I absolutely should train myself to not wear it. Like I get that, but I feel better when it's on. It's a security blanket. It just
Yeah.
makes me feel better even if I'm not lifting. I want to just be wearing it. So my belt is old as shit. I think it's like 6 years old, maybe
You wore that
more.
at the Winter Classic when they made you compete that year, like the first year we met, actually.
I wore it for 95-pound thrusters. Like
Mhm.
that's ridiculous. I shouldn't have done that. Like that's how much I wear my belt.
It's
It's
a good belt.
stupid. So I got in touch with them because they're so awesome. And if you haven't purchased anything from them, their customer service is just the bomb. And I was like, hey guys, like my belt is old as shit. And the Velcro is kind of crusty. It's just like covered in dog hair and lint
Right.
from my bag. And it's got chalk in it, whatever. I was like, do you guys have any tips as far as cleaning it goes? I don't know how to clean. I tried to Google it, like couldn't
Right.
find anything. And they were like, you have the oldest two-pood belt still in use in history. So maybe you should just get a new one. Like our new ones are really great. Like my belt doesn't even have like the double back loop
Right.
thing. It's that old and it has a D-ring on the back. Like they don't make those anymore. And I was like, no, that's bad advice. I don't want to
Yeah.
give up this belt.
I need my security
I
belt.
need my security
Yeah.
belt. So Tim, who runs Tupood, he messaged me and he was like, hey, if I promise to take really good care of it, can I borrow your belt? And I was like, yeah, man, no problem. I shipped it to him. I like put
Nice.
insurance on the package.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Yeah.
Sweet mother of God.
That's how like neurotic I was and was without it for a little bit. And I had no idea what was going on, but they're just so nice to me that I was just like, yeah, man, whatever. No questions asked. I just sent it. He just sent it back to me last week. They full on replaced the Velcro on my old crusty
Nice.
ass belt with like half the sequins are missing, like the edges are frayed, like they know that I didn't want to part with it, so they
God.
replaced the Velcro for
It's
me.
amazing.
They're so
No,
nice.
nobody does that shit for me. That's impressive. That's
I
impressive.
mean, they shouldn't have. I should have just bought another one.
Yeah, well, that's cool though.
I know. I thought that
That's
was
it.
sweet. That's like my one. That's my one piece of gear where I'm like, I can't. I can't live without it. I can't
That's
travel without it. I can't leave home without it.
Oh, I believe that. That was one of the first things I remember about you. Like when we met that year at the Winter Classic, like, and you had to
Mm-hmm.
compete. You didn't realize you were competing, but you had your belt. You were really excited because you had your belt there.
I was like, thank God I have this. I
I
travel with it
know
everywhere.
you did. That was a good thing.
That was.
I know. The Patreons wanted to know how we met. Do you remember how we met?
I do. I do. I think.
Do you? All right,
Okay.
let's see if you
So
remember. You tell it.
okay. So 2 years ago now, right? 3?
Yeah, it would have been close to 2 because the page was new. The page at the time had probably 20 to 30,000 followers, maybe.
Yeah.
So it
Okay.
was,
So
yeah.
Winter Classic 2018.
Yep.
Um, John was new on Instagram, new-ish. I think you were already Make Wads Great
I
Again by
was,
then.
yeah.
But
I'd already changed.
you started as CrossFit Trump, and I was
Yes.
one of your first few dozen followers because you were posting like stats, like if
Yeah.
this CrossFitter had done this workout at this time, he would have been second and not fifth or whatever. And I was like, this looks cool. I mean, fuck Trump, but like this looks cool. I guess
Right.
I'll follow it anyway and like find these stats and whatever interesting. And then it was like slowly evolving into a meme page. So I
Right.
obviously was like, oh, okay, this guy's cool, whatever. And we were at the Winter Classic in Cleveland, and I think I got a DM from you,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I
it was like
slid into your DMs just like that.
slid right into the DMs, and was like, hey, I'm gonna be at the Winter Classic if you are too. Well, clearly you are because I was
Yeah.
posting about it, and he was like, we should like link up and like chat and just be CrossFit social media people together in the same room. And nobody knew who John was at that
I
point
know, right?
because it was like very anonymous in the beginning, and like you were posting pictures but like you'd put something over your face so like no one knew who you
Right.
were. And it was like I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna like find out who this guy is. Nobody knows who this guy is. That's crazy.
I know. Yeah, as a matter of fact, what was funny about that competition, because Scott was one of the ones running and or part of it,
Yes.
and he knew me and knew I was doing it. And so there was Jen Smith was there, Jessica Griffith, somebody else. I forget who the other one was. It was
Margot was there.
Margot was there, and it was actually I'd been in contact with all of them, but Jess and Jen were sitting on the side, and I was competing, right? And so I was doing rope climbs, and I'm like literally at the top of the rope, and these are high rope climbs, they're like 18 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm at the top of the rope climb, and I'm like coming down, and I turn and look, and I see Scott talking to Jen and to Jess, and they both look at me, and one of them just starts nodding and giving me like this evil smile. I'm like, oh shit, they just told
Oh no.
him.
He
He just
blew up your spot.
he just outed me. Like I knew I was outed at that point, But they were really sweet. I mean, no,
Yeah.
they weren't, as much as I'd picked on everyone, even at that point, they were really kind of kind about it. So it was
And I
funny.
think I think Winter Classic was the first time that you like came out as
Hmm.
yourself, right? Like you like posted picture on the podium and you were like, "This is me.
No,
Yeah,
no,
this
no.
is
I,
me."
I, I skipped the podium that year. That year I did.
Really?
Yes, matter of fact. So I was
Oh,
competing with a friend of mine, and then I bolted, and so he had to go on the podium without me. He was so mad at me.
oh my
Got,
God.
got the prizes and everything. I didn't post any photos that year. What was interesting, I don't know if it's interesting, just like people will find it interesting, maybe. So I obviously knew you were in media, and I hadn't started the podcast yet, but I knew I wanted to do one. I was just like trying to figure out what I wanted to do still. And so I even asked you then, I'm like, well, what are
You
your
did.
goals in CrossFit? What do you want to do? Are you going to, continue to do sideline reporting? You do a podcast? And you said to me then, you're like, I'd really like to do a podcast.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just kind of
We
shelved
talked
it.
about it.
Yeah. Like I shelved it in my mind is okay, well, maybe in the future we can do some stuff together. And Chad and I started this podcast together. And for those of you that don't know Chad, you can
I
go back
also
and
don't
listen.
know Chad.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can go back. Yeah, first of all, he's got the quintessential CrossFit name, but he's a doctor. He's a physical therapist, and um, he and I were going to do this together. He's a funny dude. He's local. He's Scott's kind of trainer, so we'd known each other for a long time, and we did the first several episodes together, including the interview with Glassman.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a really busy life. He's married. He's got this job. He's training people. He trains NFL athletes. So like he trains Jarvis Landry and OBJ and like, all these wide receivers for the Browns. So he's really
Damn.
busy. And we just couldn't like seem to find the time to get it together, like to do enough stuff together. And he's just an amazing guy. We just never could really link up. And even now we don't get to talk very much. Um, and you had subbed several times, like,
Yeah, I came in the very beginning. You were kind of doing your own thing. You were with Chad, but then you were also doing, sometimes you would do like athlete interviews or whatever. And
yeah,
I was only stepping in when there was like news, or I'm going to like air quotes news, like
yeah,
CrossFit news with Niki. So it would be like an open workout was announced or like a recap of performance from this event or something like that. It was just like very timely, topical CrossFit news.
yeah,
And I think that's how we started. And the reason that we could link up and find time where I feel like you and Chad couldn't was because I would straight up just do it like from work.
right,
Back in the day when I was working at an ad agency, we had these like, little conference rooms, and I would just like take my phone with my headphones and be like, yeah, you want to record a
right.
podcast?
Well, and I think
Thanks,
for
work.
me, like, because I'm kind of hyper creative, like, I don't want to spend a ton of time planning. Like, I kind of like to work
Yeah.
I kind of always work on the fly. It's better for me from a creativity standpoint. Um, and as I've started to get but I'm also, because I'm a banker, I look at a lot of all the stats and the numbers and
Mm-hmm.
like everything behind the page. And so as I started getting the stats on the page, I started to notice that the podcasts that you and I were doing together were doing infinitely better than the podcasts I was doing solo. And they also felt better, which was more
Yeah.
important to me, less about the stats and just more about like, I want things to kind of mesh with really kind of the vision. Um, and then that was where we just decided, I guess it was maybe late December that come
Yeah.
January, we just do everything together. And ever
Yeah.
since then, we've done everything together. And
And you know what was really weird for me at first was figuring out that I could like be myself or like
mhm.
have an opinion or have a personality on the show, because everything that I've ever done in CrossFit media, and honestly everything that I've ever done in media in my life, has always been from the standpoint of a journalist, right? So like as impartial as possible, not lending my own opinion, just interviewing, just presenting news stories, just, you know, giving the CrossFit news of the day. So when we first started, I think that if you go back and listen, and actually please don't don't go back and listen
I
to our
think those are
first
good.
episodes.
I like those episodes. I like
You
those.
did? I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel like a noob. I can hear myself holding back. I can hear myself like not being a podcaster and instead just being on the show and being like, this is what they said and this is what the other people said, and that's how it was.
Well, that's
And
okay.
it
You still do that some. Like that's, you know, you're trained to do that. That's good. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
I do it some when it's appropriate, but like I don't know, in the beginning had we started doing episodes like this, I wouldn't
Hmm.
have been able to be like, this shoe is great and this shoe kind of sucks. Like I'd be like, oh my god, I can't say what I think because I am just reporting on the fact that these are shoes. So it took me a minute, and when we made the decision to be like, okay, we're just gonna do all episodes you and me, I was like, oh okay, I get to like have a show, and like this is our show and we get to say things and have
Yeah.
opinions that people roast me online for. It's great.
I haven't been roasted in a while, but I like the freedom of a podcast because you can, you know, because it is opinion based. Like
Yeah.
I don't ever feel like I'm bringing the news. Like I get that those messages from people, hey, can you report on this?
Mm,
And I try, you know, and often it'll be topics that I don't want to cover, you know, or like really touchy stuff. Well, why haven't you
yeah.
covered this? I'm like, because I'm not news. Like that's not what I do.
Yeah.
Like I like to give opinions on things. I like to talk to people. I mostly just like to have a good time. Like I'm not looking to blow up people's lives. And
Right, right. No, I like that. My favorite part about this show is facilitating conversations within the community. And sometimes there's stuff going on that's worth touching upon, and sometimes there's just not. So
yeah,
that's fine too.
no, I think it's been fun though. I mean, and you know, we've met tons of people through the show.
Tons of
I've met your
people.
husband Matt, which is fun, although I haven't met him in person. Like I've gotten to know him, you know, through
So
you, which is
funny to me.
I
Yeah.
know it's bizarre. Like, you know, but there's so many people like that. Like I've met and gotten to know through the show that I've never really been around. You know, that I
Hmm.
consider good friends. You know,
Yeah.
it's I think of like, you know, Alec and Danny, like I consider them good friends, but I've literally never seen them and never really hung out with them. You
Yeah.
know, it's what's interesting about doing it. So
Well, you and I have only been together 3 times ever.
it was a quality 3 times though, Nikki.
It
Very
was. It
quality.
felt so right, doesn't
Well,
it?
that's COVID's fault though. Like
That's true.
if it wasn't for the Cove, we would have done several more events this year. And I think next year, like that's one of my goals for the page. I'd like to see us do some sanctioned events. I'd like to see
Hmm.
us, you know, do the Under Armour thing again.
Oh, hell yeah.
And you know,
Totally.
and some unexpected stuff, like you know, just for anyone that cares, like we want to go do a train with Rich as an example.
Yeah.
I think would be a lot of fun. And you know, I wouldn't mind going to Nashville and hanging out with Alec and his partner
Hell
and
yeah.
some of that. Like, you know, I think that would be super fun. You know, so
Totally. And like we've only ever done in-person podcasts one time.
right.
And it was so different and so much fun.
I know. Well, the last time we were together, I gave you all my podcasting gear. I'm like, I'll just get it next time I see you. And then, you know, here we are 12 months later.
It's been like
Or,
a year.
I know it's been 10 months. It's legit been 10 months,
Yeah, because it
you
was
know?
January of 2020 that we
Yeah.
did this
Yeah.
last in person at the Under Armour thing. And I had it, and then I even bought my own parts, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna take it with me here, and I'm gonna take it with me there, and I'm gonna like do stuff on the road because I had like a million sanctioned events planned, and then wah wah.
Yeah. Well, so that's the John and Nikki story. I feel like there should be like some soft music playing, like from the Notebook or some shit. I know, right?
Yeah.
All right.
We have
What
a
else?
lot. I was going to say we have a bunch of other Patreon questions, but I think we should just sprinkle them in or do some more episodes. Otherwise, we're going to talk forever.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any other topics other than I've got, we'll have a few other things coming up. So a couple of things we should mention here coming up. So October's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I
Yes.
just talked to Ziona from Barbells at Boobs, which is why it's on my mind. She's actually the next episode of Inclusion RX, which we haven't talked about on this show at all, but
Which we need to.
I'm going to release that this week. So it probably will come out before we release this, or whatever that's
Ooh,
worth. So everybody go back and listen to it if you got this first. But she's doing great work, like
yeah.
really, really great work helping coaches train people that are battling breast cancer, which I think is just really just cool.
Amazing.
So yeah,
Yeah.
just doing amazing work, and obviously helping people that are battling cancer. And so I think that's really cool. So if your gym isn't doing grace or something in support of barbells for boobs, get on it. Go yell at your coaches, tell them to get involved in that. And then kind of second to that is start listening to Inclusion RX. So
Yes.
I've started doing that. Whatever it's worth, I haven't even given you any info on this. So the first episode it sounds like it's gotten really good reviews. So I've gotten a lot of good feedback from listeners. I've got 10 episodes recorded and a bunch of people on deck to do more. We're going to talk about obviously race and racism, but more than that, we're going to talk about adaptive athletes. So I've got Logan coming on from the adaptive group.
Yes.
I've got Ziona coming on from Barbells for Boobs to talk about what she's doing in that community. I've got affiliate owners and Meredith Ruth's coming on to talk about women's issues. Like there's just kind of so many cool topics. And what's been really interesting to me in these conversations, without giving too much away in advance, is like I brought people on thinking they would talk about something and then they talk about something totally different.
Oh, awesome.
And
yeah.
for me, like that has been a real kind of eye-opening experience to think that, you bring somebody on thinking, all right, they're going to talk about LGBT stuff. And then they don't talk about it at all. They talk about women's issues, and that's cool. That's like really cool to me that, it just continues to show that people are defined by more than one thing. And for me, I think that's where the conversations have been really fun and engaging. And I hope people get stuff out of it, of just learning that it isn't preaching. It's just like, hey, like we're all different. Like we all have things that, really we can continue to grow on. Like they've taught me as an example, one thing I've learned through these, and again, I'm kind of giving the secrets before the podcast come out, but one of the guests was talking about the difference between men's bars and women's bars. And she's like, I don't know why we call them that. One's 35 pounds, one's 45 pounds. And gives this whole story about how all these, young men had to go all the way across the gym and bring all these bars over when they could have easily just grabbed the bars next to them, because they were too macho to use the women's bars, and I get that, there's, grip size and, some of that plays into it, but it's just interesting. Like when you start thinking about some of the verbiage we use of how it really impacts people. And, I've never considered that ever.
Yeah.
Like, and then you really start thinking about it and go, well, do we do that with kettlebells? Cause we don't. You do it with plates? Nope. Like, so why do we do it with bars, and that does impact people. And I know it's like a tiny little thing and it seems weird when you say it out loud, but when you really start thinking about it, then you start learning from it. And for me, that's where the conversations have been really fun, of just, kind of figuring out what's on people's minds, and hopefully everybody will learn something from it. And
I just think it's nice that you're facilitating that kind of discussion, because I think a lot of times there are so many different issues, from gender to race to sexual orientation, that people are just, I don't know if they're just afraid to talk about it. It just feels like taboo to say it out loud. Like when we were having all those conversations earlier this year about, the diversity issues within our CrossFit communities, it was like, we're not calling anyone out or saying anyone's wrong or anyone's racist or anyone's bad, but it's just like, why can't we just objectively have a discussion about these types of issues within our community, and how do we address them, and what do we do about them? And we're, people are like, just nervous to even say it out loud, because they're like, oh my God, am I going to seem like I'm pointing fingers, or am I going to seem like I'm racist, or am I going to seem like I'm sexist? Like I can't even say it without worrying about stepping on toes or saying the wrong thing. So just creating an environment where you guys are comfortable enough to be like, what's going on? And what do you think we should do about it? It's like, it's really refreshing. I'm glad that you're doing it.
Well, they're fun to do. Although I will say that, having to carry the weight of an interview kind of sucks. I'm used to just
Oh,
being the one drinking while you do the work, and then I just come in with smart ass comments. So that part's been hard, like having to actually plan for stuff, have questions prepared, do all the scheduling, like.
yeah.
So that part, I've got a much better respect for what you do on a daily basis when you're
Oh,
interviewing people.
thanks.
That part's been difficult, but as I've done more, like I'm going to be interested to go back and listen to all of them because I think like the
Hmm.
last one I just did with Zona was really good. The first one I did was okay. Like they've kind of gotten better as I've gone. I've
Yeah,
had some where I'm like,
totally.
oh, I wish I hadn't asked that.
Yeah.
It's just
You
funny.
can just edit that in post.
So. Maybe.
Are you gonna have Jessica Fithen back on at any point? That
Yeah.
she'd be, yeah, man, she's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and that's been a big topic that continues to come up. It has come up from a couple of people that I've already interviewed, and so it's kind of covered. But I would like to have
Yeah.
her back on to talk more because I think I'm continuing now that you brought it to light to me of seeing um, the posts of what horrible things men are saying to women and what they jump into the DMs. And we were joking before we came on air of what grinds my gears. Let me tell you what grinds my gears right now
Yeah, what?
is every time I log into Instagram, every time they have the video shorts now. I forget what they're called. Reels.
Reels.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And every time it's some girl in a bikini. Every
Yeah.
time. Right. Now, what's interesting, I probably get that because I almost exclusively follow CrossFitters. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
all fitness. And so I'm sure I'm
Sure.
hitting their algorithm, but it's like almost annoying because it's like I don't log in to see sex, which is what that is. Like I log in plenty to see sex, but I don't log in to see that,
Well,
not an Instagram, and so it's like I'm starting to have a better appreciation for why it happens. It's
mm-hmm.
almost as if the platforms are driving, I'm not trying to victim shame by any stretch of the imagination, but it's almost like the platforms are trying to drive men in by making this the first thing they see, and then
Yeah. And it's tough because there is so much that is allowed on Instagram and Facebook. There's so much that doesn't violate the community guidelines, so to speak, that is racy or adult content or whatever intentions behind it. And I think, by the way, the women that are posting those things, like, fuck yeah, girl, like do what you want to do. Like I'm not shaming the content at all. I think it's rad that they can do whatever they want. What I think is not rad is what Jessica is sort of trying to, rally this fight against with her page, which is at you look like a man, and there's periods in between, like you period look period like whatever a man. The issue is that like every so often in those kind of like sexier posts, but also especially in the posts of women in sport and women in weightlifting and in CrossFit and whatever, these dudes will get into the comments and leave like not even just nasty comments, not trolling comments, like straight up like violation of rights comments where they're like making threats, or it's like there's a lot of like rape culture in there, and it's like that all that behavior is allowed by the platforms as like fine, does not restrict community guidelines. And that's what Jessica's trying to get sort of like this fight against, is like we cannot, oh, but you're not allowed to show like a lady nipple,
see, I don't
like
know how
that's
they'll.
banned. Like I don't get it.
Well, I don't know how they'll ever fight against it. I saw this again, kind of in the reels. There was like a yoga page,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to put yoga in air quotes because like I've done a lot of yoga, and I know a lot of people that teach yoga. And what the photos were, they were yoga, but they were intentionally sexually suggestive. You
Okay.
could tell, like they weren't like this isn't like a yoga pose. This is like I'm going to hold my ankles and spread my legs, and that's and here's where the focus of the shot is, right?
Hmm.
And then when you go in and read the comments, of course, there's guys making horrible comments, and then the woman who runs the page is like joking with those guys, right?
Hmm.
And I know this is like kind of a delicate subject. I'm not victim shaming her. Like she's driving that dialogue, and that's what she wants. That's her content and what she wants to do. More power to her,
Yeah, it's totally fine.
But then you do run into the issue of if Instagram doesn't ban that, how do they stop men from taking those exact same comments and putting it on an unwarranted page and say this violates our standards, but this doesn't?
Oh, I see
It's
where you're coming
it's
from.
hard for Instagram to police that. I'm not defending. I know I am defending Instagram. I don't know how they could police it. I actually, if someone can explain it to me, I'd love to hear it. I really would. Like in an effort to learn, I'd love to know how they could police it, because I'll be happy to fight that battle. Because I'm like, I love Jessica and her page and what she stands for. I think, particularly the men that are coming into those pages, and what I see more often is like, oh, they'll say, you look like a man, or, you're bigger than a house, or like just what they think they're, or I wouldn't, the biggest one is when they're going, well, I wouldn't sleep with her. as if,
and you're
as
like,
if,
thanks.
yeah, as if this woman posted the content to make sure that you would want to sleep with her. It's
so
just
weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's an interesting
that's what
topic.
you should do. That's what you should do your episode with her on. Get her on and talk about that kind of stuff. Because I also am curious, like where do you draw the line, and how do you draw the line, and what is the plan for that? What's the plan for this?
I'd mostly like, what I would like to hear from her, and if when and if I get her back on, is to, because what I'm wanting to do with this Inclusion RX is to help the affiliates, and I would be curious, how do you stop some of that culture in the affiliates? Because I think we've all seen it, new I've made jokes about it, memes where, a new female starts and then she's got 1,000 DMs the next day. Like, how do you stop that as an affiliate owner? How do you discourage it? I know you can't stop it, but how would you discourage it? How do you, create a safe space for everyone to come in, men and women,
Yeah. And what's appropriate and what's not, because like, if you're new at a gym and someone genuinely is interested in you and wants to know if you're single and wants to ask you out on a date, like, I don't find that inappropriate.
Yeah, I've dated in gyms. It's fine.
Yeah. But it definitely crosses lines, and there's definitely some behavior that is not benign. So yeah, how do you stop that? What do you do when you see it? That's the question. What do you do when that kind of behavior like is prevalent in your gym, or you see it happening in your gym as an owner, as an affiliate owner, as a coach? It can feel really awkward to like stop it, but you have to say something. So that's
I think, I think that's, we've probably hit on it, and we can wrap on this, but I think as an affiliate owner, when you hear it, you have to call it out. You have to say something like, when you hear a guy make a rude comment to another guy, is typically where it happens, about a female member, you got to say to him, hey guys, it's not appropriate. Like,
not here.
You guys want to text each other, you want to text people outside of the gym, more power to you. Don't say it within earshot of other people. Like, be respectful,
Yeah. But also like, be better. Just be a better dude.
Yeah.
Like, don't text it to your buddy later. Like, don't go there.
That might be too much to ask, Niki. Dudes are dudes.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I would like people to be better. And, I'm not one to judge. I've had plenty of shitty moments in my life. I think we all
Of
have.
course.
So
right. Yeah. I'm not throwing any stones in this glass house, for fuck's sake.
Anyway. All right. Well, this has been fun. We've talked about everything, almost everything but CrossFit. So
seriously, I hope that came out okay.
Everyone's
people aren't like,
unsubscribe.
Where's the guest? Where's the CrossFit athlete? We haven't even talked about the games.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of that coming up. Lots of good guests. Josh Bridges still coming.
Yes.
Neil Maddox. We released Justin Medeiros today. He was great. So lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
So, all right, and then lots of game stuff coming up, because that's going to happen in a week or so.
I know. I can't believe it.
I know, it's nuts. All right. Well, this has been fun. So thank you as usual.
Yes, likewise.
And for everyone listening, we hope you guys had a good time. Feel free to DM us if you have more questions about gear. DM Niki particularly, not me. And and we will chat with you guys later.